Guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to be talking about the Taylormade Qi10. And yes, I know this is already one generation old and it's a year old, and I'm not necessarily putting out a review here to test how it is numbers wise, because we know it was a very successful driver. What I'm going to be talking about here is why some of the best players in the world are still playing this driver and the reasons for why that might be. So Qi35 came out in 2024 and was put into play by the majority of the top staffers there with Taylormade. I think the only exception was Colin Morikawa, who was still actually in one of the sim models. And I guess that kind of shows how personal these parts of the equipment are to the guys on tour. You know, they're obviously incredibly good and they get used to something and they want it to perform a particular way, of course. Expertly fitted by the guys there in the tour wagons as well. And of course, they're playing for millions of dollars every week. So once they get something in their hands that they trust and they've had good performances with, maybe they've won with it, it's going to be pretty hard to get it out. And of course, companies like Taylormade, and they're not alone now because people like Callaway as well, they have this 1 year life cycle. Every year they bring a new product to the market, as you know. And I think that's becoming increasingly hard now for the guys on tour, the guys who are fitting the guys on tour, to get this new product into the players' hands because there's such a quick turnaround. The guys on tour generally see new products before the general public. So if it's released in a January, February time, for example, the pros have probably seen it the previous fall season. So October time, they've probably been testing it. And that's because Taylormade, Callaway, these companies, they'll be really keen to get the product into the tour players' hands for the launch of the new product when it comes out the next following year. Also, they'll also be gathering good feedback and off the players as well. If there's anything that needs to change, more often than not, the designs are already fixed because they've been done almost years in advance, to be completely honest with you. But if they have the opportunity to really change anything, especially for the actual player itself, they'll obviously try and endeavor to do that so they can get that player into the new product for the new year. Now this year, the Qi35 was released and it's been a fantastic product, I have to say. When I tested it myself personally, I really enjoyed it. It performed great and I quite liked actually the round look of it. The infinity crown in that sort of gray color, I think it really popped and it looked really good to me. So they've done a really good job with the new driver. However, their two top names, the #1 player in the world, Scottie Scheffler, and Rory McIlroy, who's the current Masters champion, don't play that model driver. And I think Taylormade in that regard have a bit of an issue. How are they going to get around this? Well, I'm not sure they actually can. And there's a couple of reasons for that. I think they've changed some of the characteristics between the Qi10 and the Qi35. And I just think the Qi10 is just a better suited driver to Rory McIlroy and Scottie Scheffler. Now, why is that? Well, for Rory, typically, he's a big draw of the golf ball, probably the best driver of the golf ball in the game right now in terms of the distance he hits it and the consistency he can hit the fairway with it as well. But he hits that big bombing right to left shape, and the shot to the left-hand side has traditionally been a bit of a problem for Rory. If you look at Scottie Scheffler, he is traditionally a fader of the golf ball. He wants to see it go from left to right, and he doesn't want to see it go left either, but for different reasons. So for Rory, I would say the Qi10, which was predominantly, I would say, straight to fading in terms of its flight because of its center of gravity placement, because of that face angle that it achieved as well. But also one of the key things that I haven't said yet, but the lie angle of this driver was very flat. It came out at 54 degrees, which is extremely sort of toe down. So if you think about this angle here being upright in a driver and this angle here being flat in a driver, this particular driver picks up a very flat lie angle. And because of that, it kind of lends itself to people who want to start the ball to the right-hand side or achieve an open face angle. It's going to encourage that a little bit more than if you had an upright driver or something which internally had draw weighting to it as well. And this Qi10, I think it has a bit of both. It has a little bit of internal fade bias to it in terms of that weighting, and it has that quite flat lie angle to it as well. So it really lends itself to limiting the big overdraw that Rory wants to get rid of and encouraging that fade that Scottie wants to get hold of. And I think they're two of the things right there, two of the big reasons why the boys have still got this in play. I'm going to hit some shots now. I'm a draw of the golf ball myself. I'm going to see if it actually eliminates the big draw for me altogether. And I'll try and hit some fades as well and just see if it's any easier for me to try and move it from left to right like Scottie does. So stick with us. I'm going to hit some shots. As we know, down by the golf ball, great looking head. And it's not, for me, as symmetrical as what the new Qi35 was. It's definitely a little bit more rounded in that toe area, and it looks like the weighting almost moves towards the toe area for me in this particular model. So down by the golf ball, you can see it almost looks like this area here has been cut away, and it's a bit more bulbous in that toe area there. And I think that helps produce more of a sort of fade bias from this driver as well. They had the blue face on this one here. Very non-offensive, I think, having fitted with the Stealth and the Stealth 2 Plus, which had the red face. That was, you know, quite bright, and you could really tell the difference there between crown and face angle. But this one here, it just merges in. For me, when I was fitting this to customers, they definitely didn't, there wasn't the comments about the contrast between face and head that there was with the Stealth models, certainly. And interesting enough, that's actually faded a little bit for me. So I felt like I hit that pretty solid out the middle of the golf club. Nice, easy swing, nothing too quick to start the morning here of my reviews. But normally I'd expect that to see it almost hold its line, if anything, and stay to the left-hand side of the line there. But it actually started to just peel away and fade a little bit. And again, I think that is purely just because of the internal weighting of this head and the fact that I've got it in that lower setting. So the face angle does sit open here for me as well. But it wasn't a bad drive. It held its line. It's finished just right of target there. I'd be happy with it out on the golf course, but I think that's a prime example of what Rory's experiencing there as well, is he's just wants that drive that doesn't feel like it's going to go left on him. Okay, guys, so what I'm now going to try and do is see if I can really move that driver from right to left, just to see if it wants to resist the temptation to overdraw and hook for me. I had to work really hard to turn that over, I have to say. And I did do it, but it's more of a pull draw, that one. It's gone a long way, but yeah, I really felt like I had to really hit that hard inside to out and turn my right hand over to try and get that one to draw there. And again, that is a shot that Rory has been prone to over the years. And I think actually it's something in his game that's really improved, that he's managed to really eliminate that big left-hand drive that had cost him in big tournaments in the past. In fact, it actually cost him it cost him wins in tournaments in the final couple of holes where he's missed it to the left-hand side. And I always thought, especially from a fitting perspective, if he could get rid of that left miss, it would really help him compete in the biggest tournaments under the most pressure. So yeah, you can see it's really hard to turn over. Definitely wants to fade a little bit more. Let's hit some with Scottie Scheffler's sort of characteristic and see how we get on with those. As we said there, Rory McIlroy is typically a draw of the golf ball. He hits high launching, low spinning bombs. And it's a completely different flight to most of the tour players out there. A lot of players now play a fade. They're trying to move it from left to right because it offers more control for that particular player. But typically with that sort of fade flight comes a bit more spin. And sometimes it can also lose a little bit more ball speed because of that as well. So having a driver that controls those two characteristics is going to be ideal for the player. And I think, again, that's where the Qi10, maybe over the Qi35, being a slightly lower spin model, I think that's where it's actually benefited Scottie, and that's why he's still in this particular head. Obviously, he's playing some great golf with it as well, so he's probably a little bit reluctant to give it up, having got to world #1 with it and won more major championships. But I'm now going to try and hit a fade just to see how it controls my spin in relation to my draw shots that I just hit. Quite a high fade there. But it still kept some relatively good distance on that shot there. And I'll throw up the spins of the difference between the draw shots and the fade shots shortly. But again, it just felt an absolute piece of cake to move from left to right. In fact, I probably moved it too much there, really. I didn't have to work quite as hard as what I felt I had to there to try and move it from left to right. So let me do that again, but not try and fade it quite so much. A little bit low and out the heel, that one. So that one will kick the spin up, but it'd be interesting to see from the numbers how the drivers controlled those two parameters. So let's have a little look at the numbers in a bit more detail. All right, guys, I'm just going to throw up a graphic here of the numbers there from the shots that I hit. So you can see here I've got Rory's numbers that I've tried to simulate, obviously substantially slower than where Rory is. He's around 20 miles an hour quicker than what I am club head speed wise, but In relation there, what I tried to do is achieve an inside out club path and an upwards angle of attack to try and hit more of a draw shape there as well. You see the average of the couple of shots that I hit, because I hit a couple off camera as well, were 155 mile an hour ball speed, 12 degrees of launch. I was in the region of the low 2000s in terms of the spin there, averaged 262 on my carry and 287 overall for total yardage, which is there or thereabouts what I typically expect to see from my driver numbers anyway. If you've watched any of my previous reviews, you'll know that that's pretty much where I am, and I am a slight drawer of the golf ball. With this particular head there, I did find it harder, certainly, when I put it into that lower setting to try and get the shot to turn over as well. And again, with Rory having a much quicker release than me, that might be something that he really likes about this Qi10. Underneath that, I've got Scottie Scheffler's numbers there. As you can see, there's a slight drop off in the ball speed, and that's because the actual delivery pattern changed. Has a bit more across the golf ball, and my angle of attack wasn't anywhere near as much up. In fact, it was kind of level, 0 in terms of my angle of attack. And again, I've done a video on angle of attack, guys, so maybe go and check that one out as well, and how it can affect ball speed, launch, and spin. So because of that, wasn't getting quite the same ball speed from the driver, and you can see that my launch stayed about a degree lower than where I was when I was hitting up on the ball, and the spin gained as well. So lower launch, more spin. You can see that I dropped carry yardage, but I think for Scottie, it's just having that reliable left to right fade shot that he can hit under the most extreme pressures, which has allowed him to win major championships now over the last couple of years. He's not going to hit it as far as what Rory does, and I think side by side, Rory probably wins that battle. But obviously for Scottie, he's putting more of a priority on that consistency and that particular shot shape that he can hit as and when he needs to. But yeah, really interesting, guys. It's definitely, for me, very easy to stop from hitting the ball left there. When I hit the Qi10, I hit that really well, and I really enjoyed it. So the Qi35, I should say, that particular driver model for me probably suited me better. I almost preferred the more symmetrical looking head, but obviously the guys on tour, that's not what they want to see and what they like. For me, Taylormade, if they're going to try and get those top players back playing the latest driver again, they're going to have to bring in a track system, I think, and they're going to have movable weights that will suit your player like your Colin Morikawa, who wants to fade it, and your Scottie Scheffler, but then also bring back on board your player like Rory, who wants to draw it. So, you know, a wide track like what they had through some of their early M series might be an idea as well. And it's going to be interesting with Taylormade whether they continue with the carbon face or whether they go back to titanium faces again. Obviously, they save weight here, which they can use elsewhere. And it might be with the maybe like a wide track weight system where they can drop the center of gravity back and forwards and move the weight into the heel or the toe. It'll be interesting to see if we can find a different gear out of the carbon fiber face, but at the moment it doesn't seem like it's been a success for the tour guys. I'm not sure they've quite enjoyed it as much as they had done with previous Taylormade drivers. They feel very quick and they feel electric, but I don't think it's quite giving them the control that they're after. So Taylormade, they've got some things to think about there. The manufacturers are generally always a couple of years ahead of their releases in terms of the R&D. So I would say the next driver, the Qi40, the Qi45, the Qi50, whatever it's going to be called, it's already been designed, so it's whether they have to go back to the drawing board with that before they release it in 2026. But guys, what do you think of this current situation for Taylormade and some of the latest manufacturers? They're not the only guys struggling with it, by the way. There's a lot of Titleist players still playing previous models, and there's Callaway guys playing previous models, as we saw with Sam Burns at the US Open. So they're not the only companies. Is it because technology's plateaued and ultimately it's just not worth changing if the guys are happy in a particular model head? Or is it that from model to model, they're struggling with particular characteristics of it and they need to go back to the drawing board and bring back those movable weights? What do you guys play? I'd be interested to know. Qi10, Qi35, do you play an earlier model than that? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you've enjoyed that video and the information that I provided, please hit the like button. And if you haven't already and you want to get updates from when we're releasing our next videos, please hit the subscribe button, and you'll start getting those as well. Guys, hope you found that really interesting. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are as well. And I look forward, as always, to seeing you on the next review.